what America was and what it can become. This is Liberty Town Hall.
Hello and welcome to Liberty Town Hall. My name is Greg Marshall. With me is Glenn Wilson. Thanks for watching today. Hi, Glenn.
Hi, Greg.
How are you?
I'm awesome. I'm really encouraged and upbeat about what we're about ready to take on as an adventure here. Greg, we're going to get into more about myself and a couple of interviews. You actually interviewed me. I thought it was kind of strange. You got me off guard with that one. But tell us a little bit about yourself, will you? Give us a little bit of background for yourself.
Well, background, I'm a 30-year broadcast veteran, mostly radio. I've done a little bit of television in the past, and I've been probably in the Liberty Movement, I guess now, Glenn, about the last 20 years of my career, trying to make a difference where we can, telling people things they haven't heard before, showing them the difference between revisionist history and what really happened in our past so we can learn not to make the same mistakes in the future.
And why do you think this show is so important?
This show is going to really show people about liberties lost, freedoms lost, what you don't have anymore that your parents and grandparents had, and hopefully how to restore it.
You think we can make a difference here?
If I didn't think we could make a difference, Glenn, I wouldn't be here. And neither would you. This is too important, and we have too many other things to do.
Oh, I've got plenty on my list.
Absolutely. But it's worth it, and I'm glad we're here.
We'll be right back with more Liberty Town Hall.
It's here, M33TV.com. Watch your favorite movies and shows on your computer or supported devices. M33TV.com finally makes it possible to affordably watch web TV and video on demand in crisp, high-definition color and sound. Get all your entertainment in one place. M33TV.com offers unparalleled choice, control, and quality in an easy-to-use package. Watch TV on your own terms. Watch M33TV.com.
This is Liberty Town Hall. Glenn Wilson's here right now. You've gotten to know him from the program. You probably will in the future. If not, you should. So start tuning in every week. Glenn, I wanted to talk a little bit more about your backstory. One of the big things that some people may know, but a lot don't, is that you ran for Congress, except you did it a little bit differently than a lot of people do. Now, tell me about how you kind of backed into politics.
I have been trying to run a small business here in northern Michigan. I have around 20 employees, plus or minus winter and summer months. And the government decided they're going to go give my competition $187 million to put me out of business.
Now, we ought to explain that, the business you operate real quick.
I own a small telephone and internet company. We service the schools in the local area, police, fire departments, hospitals, the ambulance services, as well as many of the small businesses and residences in the area. And we built this massive network to go hook up all the schools. And I'm very proud of the fact that we've saved them over $1.5 million over our competitor. And so the government thanks us by giving our competitor, the very competitor, $187 million to go take all the schools from us.
Was that the Broadband Act that they came up with
right, that was all in that stimulus package, yep.
Gotcha.
So I applied.
Why didn't you get it?
Because I applied for a loan, not a grant. Mm-hmm. They said Northern Michigan can't afford to pay back the money. So since you asked for a loan, we're going to give it to the people that want it for a grant. So they have taken private taxpayers' money and given it to essentially private business.
So what you're telling me is, make sure I understand this, that you ask for a loan.
Correct.
To put in the broadband system in your section in northern Michigan.
I said there was no way a private business should be getting gift from the people of this kind of money. So if we're going to do this, and the stimulus package made it very clear that if you ask for a loan, it would take higher priorities over any grants given out, because they could give more money out underneath the rules of paying it back versus just a gift, because they only had so much money to give away or use for the program. So if we ask for a loan, well, that's fair. Just like any other small business loan. You pay it back with interest, you get it over a decent period of time, and you can actually employ people and build and grow from the area. So having a loan for a business, private business, is not a problem, as long as you have to pay it back. And then, of course, the people would have the entire company for collateral. If I didn't pay it back, they can come in and sell it and say, hey, you know what, you didn't pay it back. So, and they have insurances that they can do for like SBA loans, that you get an SBA loan guarantee. It's like an insurance that says, if you don't pay this money back, then we have to pay it off. And you go into like an insurance pool with it. But that, you know, there's a million ways we could do this and protect the taxpayers and still get the job done. So that's why I asked for a loan.
Let me play devil's advocate just for a second, Glenn, and ask you, they say that Northern Michigan couldn't pay it back. Without giving us your trade secrets, could you have paid back the loan, at least based on the business plan?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, in spades. I would have been able to increase the payroll for each of my staff members so that we could actually have a decent wage, because most of my staff is working to try to build something, and frankly there's not a lot left over in profits to pay. So we're trying to work hard at getting our paychecks up for everyone so that we can provide things like medical and dental and optical and so on and so forth. So yeah, there's profit in there, and I would have been able to do that and in almost double the number of people I've employed. So
the government decided that it would be better for you to have taken a grant from the taxpayer instead
Right.
of trying to save the taxpayer money and actually making them an eventual profit from it.
Well, actually, the rules say a loan was supposed to take priority over grants, so how they got grants through. But the part that really just irks me is we're a small business. We didn't have any money to spend on this program. And I knew full well that the government was going to be giving away $7.2 billion into our industry. So I went ahead and I spent the money for the engineering and the accounting and all the work for months to put this package together. Sure. I'm out $300,000. I'm still paying the engineering bill on that. So not only did I lose the schools, which by the way, I still have to pay the loan payments for the towers and the network we built to hook up these schools to save them all the money. See, but I was underneath the wrong impression. I didn't think I was supposed to get as much money as I could out of the public school system as fast as I could. No, I spread it out over the term of the loan, so 10, 15 years on these assets, and I figured out what it would be with a small margin of profit that we could lower the cost to our direct community. Because our taxpayers locally, whether people realize it or not, most of the school taxes are paid right here by the local taxpayers, the property tax.
That's correct.
So I thought I was doing the right thing. I didn't know I had to pay this off because my reward for doing so much for the community was to have the government, federal government, come in here and fund my competition to put us out of business. Which is another reason why we're doing this Liberty Town Hall. People need to understand between regulations, government favoring monopolies based on who funded the special interest group that got them into office. That's a big issue. When special interests are funding these elections, they're doing it because they know once they get their candidate in office, they're going to get a better control or monopoly over their market. So it all feeds together, yes.
When we come back, Glenn Wilson's going to be telling us more about why he actually ran for Congress. Why was it important for him to take that next step? It's an interesting story. I hope you'll stay tuned. Thanks for watching. This is Liberty Town Hall.
United States senators create laws that affect all Americans. In Michigan, the old parties are running Senate candidates who will sink you into endless debt, embark on costly foreign crusades, and violate your freedom. These policies have created the current economic depression. I'm Scotty Bowman, and I pledge to end deficit spending, restore the Constitution, and put your freedom first. Help me fight for you by making a contribution at scottybowman.org. I'm Scotty Bowman, candidate for United States Senate, and I've approved this advertisement.
It's Liberty Town Hall. Glenn Wilson is with us today. Glenn, you a lot of times do the interviews, but this time we're interviewing you because I want people to know about your story about running for Congress. It's an important one, I think, because I want to encourage other people to run for office. Now, you were continuing on what drove you to actually decide to take the leap and run for Congress.
The quick answer is the federal government. Trying to put all those small businesses out of business. Trying to allow the big companies to become monopolies. And there's no room for the small guy in the small town. People don't understand what's going on out there. They think that their only option is the R and the D. They say, we have to vote for the lesser of two evils. I don't like either of these candidates, but what choice do I have? Well, we gave them a choice, an independent candidate that did not take any of the special interest money and was there to represent the people. And what do? They voted out of fear. the worst thing they could say was, Glenn, you're going to take all the votes from the Republicans, and therefore you're going to let the Democrats get a House seat. Well, really? Is it about the red team or the blue team? Or is it about somebody representing them and actually upholding the oath of office to support and defend the Constitution? It's been missing. See, the way I see it, and maybe I'm wrong, but elected officials have no concept of what the Constitution really is.
Not very many do.
The number that I think that actually read the Constitution, you could fit on one hand. For example, when I was running, everybody says, Glenn, drop out of the race. Glenn, drop out of the race. And I said, show me a candidate I can support and I will. We have the Democrat, the Republican, the Libertarian, the Constitution candidate, and of course we had the Green Party candidate. And I'm not sure if there was any other little ones that actually was in the ballot in all areas on the ticket, but what we found out was people are voting out of fear. Bottom line. We found out that unless you take all this money from the special interest groups, you're never going to be given the light of day. You cannot possibly fund this. So what I said is I'm going to take the money from my company. I'm going to take a huge loan if I have to from my company. And I'm going to put this into this campaign because at this rate my company won't exist in a few years. So it was in the company's interest also to, pony up the money, and since I own most of the company, I could figure I could do this, right? FEC jumped in and said, not a dime, Glenn.
Federal Elections Commission.
Yep, not a dime. Now, right after that, the Supreme Court ruled and said, corporations can do this. They can do it in super PACs. So had they had their mind made up then, I could have put the money into a super PAC, turned it over to some neutral party and said, here, get me elected, just like anybody else.
Yeah.
Because it's a C corporation, so it really is a separate entity. But the FEC lumped it all together, and so they ripped the legs right out from underneath me in the campaign, in the middle of the campaign. But even more importantly, I was running against a gentleman named Dr. Dan Benedek, who,
among others, yeah.
Among others, who won the election. I was going around to the tea parties with him, and I got to know the candidates better than anyone. The candidates stand around talking, we all get to know each other really well. And I had more respect for Gary McDowell of the Democrat Party, and even Elliott Bowles of the Green Party, for crying out loud. I couldn't have disagreed with these guys more. But at least I knew that deep down in their heart, they weren't just feeding somebody a line. Dan Benedek ran on the thing, read it, repeal it, reduce it, blah, blah, blah. He had 4 R's, he had it called. He passes the National Defense Act and says, oh, well, it was complicated. I didn't really understand it. I can't sleep at night now that I voted for it. Well, if you can't comprehend what he's reading, what's he doing in the job? And what's he voting for it for if you can't understand it? If you can't understand it, vote no. I wanted one subject per bill. Quit lumping all this stuff together. One subject per bill.
Not a bunch of riders.
Not a bunch, no, absolutely not. But we have to get the special interests out of this. And so one of the things was, don't take any PAC money. Don't take any special interest money. Because then, are you really representing the people that paid for your election? Or are you representing the people that you're supposed to be? That was a fundamental difference in my campaign, Greg.
One of the things, and probably one of the only things I gave you a little bit of grief from friendly as we got to know each other in the campaign, was that you didn't pick even a minor party. You went totally independent.
Right.
I thought that was a mistake because I thought you needed some kind of infrastructure. You didn't. Explain why you felt that way.
Who am I representing, the party or the people? That's really what it boils down to. How can you serve 2 masters if you're being elected to represent the people? It's a fundamental problem I had. People can disagree with me or not. But as long as it's in the Constitution, it's not even my choice. First of all, we have to figure out what the Constitution is, the constraints that elected officials are under. Laws are never meant to be made easily passed in this country. Our Congress, for example, was divided up into 2 houses. One was the House of Representatives to represent the people, and the Senate was supposed to be appointed, the legislators were supposed to be appointed by the state, so that the states were represented in the Senate and the people were represented in the House. Now with the 17th Amendment, the people vote for either a 2-year representative or a 4-year representative. Take your pick. So,
Or 6 year in the U.S.
or I'm sorry, 2 or 6 years
In the US,
Yeah,
yeah.
in the U.S. Senate. They're really nothing more than a representative, because they're elected by the same people that represent or elect the House of Representatives. So I thought people would understand if somebody was there to represent them for the change.
About 20 seconds left, Glenn. Should people consider running for office?
Absolutely. Get out and wake everyone up. Make sure they understand that the Constitution is the law of the land. We've changed it over the years. It's been there. You can make amendments to it all the time. If you don't like it, change it. But in the meantime, every congressman, every senator, the president, right on down the line, is supposed to be swearing an oath to uphold and defend this Constitution. So, that's why.
He's Glenn Wilson. I'm Greg Marshall. This is Liberty Town Hall.
Rose City Drug, your one-stop pharmacy, home health care, medical supplies, photo processing, and gift headquarters. The pharmacy department fills your prescriptions utilizing a state-of-the-art robotic system, lowering the time you wait with much higher accuracy, and your medication is never touched by human hands. The home health care and medical supplies department has a complete line of diabetic supplies and aids, including a full line of diabetic shoes. Rose City Drug, family-owned and operated for over 20 years, just south of the Rose City city limits, 2640 North M33.
Hello, and thank you for joining us here on Liberty Town Hall. I wanted to start off by introducing myself. I'm a family man that somehow managed to raise 6 kids. I am a very proud grandfather of 5. I grew up on a small farm here in Michigan. I'm a veteran and a small business owner. And I'm a very proud American. I thank God every day for the life He has given me. Every day I try to become a better person than I was the day before. And in many ways, what I am not is just as important as what I am. I am not a radical, nor some extremist. I am someone that has just become so concerned about the future of our country that I have pulled together every resource I could find in order to reach out to you, the average American, the person that has to figure out how to make ends meet each month. I'm here to ask for your help. America grew from the idea, that of personal freedom, where each person was in control of their own lives, to become a nation that stood as a symbol of hope and liberty throughout the world. We need to stop for a minute and look what's happening to our great country. We are sending our children and grandchildren to serve in military conflicts all around the globe. Every day you hear about another friend, neighbor, brother, sister, parent being killed in some country. And I keep asking myself, for what? Is this really doing any good? Our country is now in debt over $16 trillion. Let's try to get a handle on just how much money that is. Try to think of the dollar as a single second. Now, if I was to ask you how long you think a million seconds is, what would you say? A day, a week, a month? Well, it's actually 11 and a half days. So if I was to ask you how long a billion seconds was, would you think it would be a year or 2 years? It's actually almost 32 years. Now we are talking about trillions of dollars. Well, a trillion seconds, that is just short of 32,000 years. Think about that. If you spent $1 every second, it would take you 32,000 years to spend $1 trillion. Now we need to times that by over 16, because just in our past bills alone, we have run up over $16 trillion in debt. By the way, that would be over 500,000 years. Now that's a lot of zeros. And even worse, there is over $120 trillion in unfunded liabilities. We don't have a clue how we're going to pay this. Just think about this for a second and be honest with yourself. Are we as a nation going to knowingly and willingly keep pushing our bills off onto our children and grandchildren to pay? Or are we as a nation going to live within our means? Because let's face it, we have already ran up more debt than we can possibly pay off in any of our lifetimes. We are spending our children's money, and that is the bottom line. America has been taken down a path which should have us all very concerned. We as a nation have never been so divided. The extremists on both sides use tools such as hate and fear tactics to divide us, just so they can force their agendas on us. It is clear that many of our elected officials have been, and still are, way more concerned about themselves than for the people they are there to represent. The mainstream media has become more of a propaganda machine than a source of honest and straightforward news. It has gotten to the point where we don't know what or whom to believe anymore. One of the big problems is that many of these issues have been made so complicated and confusing that we basically throw up our hands and say, what can I possibly do about it anyway? Or we say someone else can deal with it. Most of us just expect that someone else will solve these problems. We need to sort out the truth from the propaganda, see through their fear tactics they use to move their agendas. This is not going to be some quick and simple process. We're going to need to address each issue head on, good, bad, or indifferent. We're going to need to get down to the facts. It's not about which team wins the White House or which team wins a seat in Congress. It must be about the person that's going to do the job and keep the oath of office. The American dream is in danger of being lost forever. Here on Liberty Town Hall, we are going to address the issues that no one in the mainstream media is willing to talk about. These issues, so-called third rail of politics. Issues like Social Security, talk about too big to fail. If there was ever a system too big to fail, Social Security would be it. There are other issues such as, how does our money system really work? What is the national debt matter really? Why is the national debt so high in the first place? What exactly is the Federal Reserve? What should the role of the U.S. be around the world? Have we lost our focus as a nation? What does it mean to be one nation under God? Did our founding fathers really want God to be removed from every aspect of our government? What is the U.S. Constitution really? What's the role of our government according to the U.S. Constitution? There are several reasons the major news organizations do not cover these issues. The reasons most of them will give you is that no one cares about these issues. They'll tell you that no one wants to talk about them, much less take the time that is needed to really understand these issues. They will say that people only want to know about what's going on right this minute. Never get into the reasons why things are happening all around us. Never addressing the underlying causes. It's all about the ratings to them. Well, Liberty Town Hall is here to focus on and address the issues we are facing as a nation head on. We have allowed the special interest groups to have their way with our nation for far too long already. You, me, our parents, our children, we are the people that have to deal with the results from these special interest groups pushing their agendas. Day in and day out, we have to deal with it. We as a nation must take the time to understand the goals and agendas of these very powerful special interest groups. We, the American people as a whole, want a better future for our kids. For most of us, that is a huge part of the American dream. The goal of this show is to bring common sense back, to sort out the mess that we have allowed to take over our great nation, to know that our children and our grandchildren won't be slaves to the debt we have left for them to pay. I would like to conclude by asking God to bestow His blessings on this show so that America can, once again, be a proud and strong nation that stands as a symbol of hope and liberty throughout the world once again. Thank you in advance for all your help. May God bless you, and may God bless America.
I say, the earth belongs to each of these generations during its course fully and in its own right. The second generation receives it clear of the debts and encumbrances of the first, the third of the second, and so on. For if the first should charge it with the debt, then the earth would belong to the dead, and not to the living generation. Then no generation can contract debts greater than may be paid during the course of its own existence. Thomas Jefferson, 1789.